Beryl is here, and she is from she is an expert, food loss and waste associate at World Resources Institute. And of course, we'd like to ask you, it's a simple question, but of course, we'd just like to know, is it a new concept? Is it something that has been there and we've been ignoring? So we'd definitely like to know maneno ya food and waste, but
food loss and waste.
Food loss and waste, and we would like to know what exactly is food loss and food waste, and why should young people in Kenya care about it?
Thank you very much. So it's not necessarily a new concept per se, but to give you a bit of historical background, with agrarian revolution and industrial revolution, for those who took history in school,
tumefikiwa finally. Hiyo knowledge imekam through.
Inventions of tools and mechanization. Yes. So the production certainly started increasing, and then people started realizing, oh, there's so much production, so there's a lot to eat, right? Mm-hmm. But then people start wasting it. Mm-hmm. And so it's not that it was unique to Western countries. It's also something that's happening here. So the earlier research began like in the 1970s, when now people like in the US started seeing, okay, 40% of all that we produce is actually being wasted, mm-hmm. right? But in terms of contextually in Kenya, we also are going through the same, right? So we produce every onset every year at the rainfall. When we have the rains, farmers are digging up, they're preparing their lands like right now, mm-hmm. because you want to produce food. But then along the way, you find that either your family or as a farmer, you produce maybe 90 bags, you need to sell them, you don't get them to the market because maybe 10 bags are rotten or something like that. Mm-hmm. So when you think about food loss, let's begin with the loss part. The loss is actually losing quality or quantity of food. And it's usually in between production and the market. So anything that happens along the way. And I think in like last month, there was a photo that went viral. A farmer was transporting milk mm-hmm. in 2 cans, right?
Yes, yes.
And on a motorbike. Mm-hmm. And along the way, the road was bad. It punglu panglan, right? Yeah. And he lost all the milk. And then his picture is, the photo had him sitting mm-hmm. on the side of the road and thinking, what am I going to do with myself today? Mm-hmm. So that's food loss. And that loss is a result of infrastructure issues. Mm-hmm. Food loss can happen for many reasons. It can be infrastructure, the roads are bad. It can be issues of storage. I don't have the right technology or techniques for storage. Or it can be a processing, value addition. Waste now is what we mostly have control of. It's what's happening at our restaurants. Mm-hmm. It's what's happening at our homes, on our tables. So it's the consumption side. Mm-hmm. So for loss, of course, there are interventions that can happen. Also for loss mm-hmm. and for waste. We'll come to that. Why then should we care as young people? If you were to imagine how much food we lose 9 million metric tons of food. Now, this is almost close to what the UK also loses. They lose about 9.2.
A year?
Yes, in a year.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Which is, they say 30% of total food produced in the country.
Okay.
Now, 9 million estimates, rough estimates says it can feed 30 million people for a year. Mm-hmm. What's the population of Kenya?
60, 50.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. We are getting there. So, meaning the amount of food we are losing can literally feed half of our population. Wow. Now, when you think about how much you're losing, also think about how many people suffer from what we term as moderate or severe food insecurity. Mm-hmm. 70% of the population. Now, 14 million of us mm-hmm. by 2022 were termed as suffering from malnutrition. So every year, almost we see in the TV or in the news, in the newspapers, people who are suffering, right? Mm-hmm. From lack of food, from hunger. So it's very ironical that we have so much being lost.
Yes.
And yet there are people who go hungry. Mm-hmm. And even within our vicinities, you might be having a full plate, but your next door neighbor might actually not have.
It's actually factual.
Food, right? Yeah. It's mm-hmm. very factual. So it is important for us because it's just not the moral aspect of it. There's also the financial aspect of it, because translate that into mm-hmm. the economics mm-hmm. in terms of money, right?
Yes. We're going to get deeper in conversation about this. But of course, I'm from that community where if it's not full, like the plate is not extremely full, mm-hmm. Then haujakaribishwa vizuri. You know, it's African culture to actually do that. But of course, there are parts where people lack food